from the files of Mighty Mo Cadence. The adventures of the Hollywood Eye, who exposes so much more than just film. Starring Troy Rudisil and Christy Grantham. And now, Mighty Mo Cadence, private detective, in Blue, Scarlet.
You know what the dirtiest little secret here in Tinseltown is? You might have the glamour, the fame, the riches, your face 10 feet high on a movie screen. But underneath all that, down to living it day by day, you're still a working stiff punching a clock. It's a job. And like any other gig, it has its share of agonists pining for a different life. Oh sure, some here in the hills really love what they do, like TV impresario Manny Semple by all accounts. Not so much for his ravishing bride, the former Miss Cassandra Blauvelt of Shipshewana, Indiana. But wait, you say, she's a famous actress, you say. You think being a star means you never sing the blues? Funny how things work out. The last year had seen a pretty good uptick in business, and not with the usual crowd of sewer rats either. For some reason, the Hollywood elite was feeling a bit less safe in the comfort of their own homes, and it was a bit too much for the high-class PI agencies to handle. So work spilled over to guys like me. Having the reputation for being a little down and dirty didn't always hurt. So I was well placed to take on a better class of clientele. A little more work meant I had a little more scratch to spend. So I was disposing of my modest largesse at the Sport of Kings. The Santa Anita Derby for 1950 was this weekend, and having been known to put down a bet or two in my time, naturally, I was there. I put down a respectable sum on Gulliver's Traveler, not to win, but to show. Lower risk, still a payout worth hiding from the IRS. Not that I'd do that kind of thing, of course.
Hanby in the lead, Mamma Mia in second, Daydream right behind.
Come on.
What's this?
Come on.
Gulliver's Traveler breaking from the pack, overtaking Hieronymus, pulling up on night moves.
Yes.
Gulliver's Traveler making a run at Daydream, just 3 lengths behind. 2.
Come on.
Gulliver's Traveler's nose at Daydream's hip.
Yes.
This is the home stretch. Gulliver's Traveler keeping pace with Daydream.
You got it.
Hanby across the finish line, Mamma Mia, and Daydream in the show.
Oh. So much for that. Oh well, it was more about the game than the haul. In the old days, I could drop quite a hefty stack on a long shot. Didn't really matter. I was loaded. It was more about the thrill of the moment than the win. And now and then it would pay off. The Winner's Gallop Lounge here at the park was one of only a few places I still had from the old life. Come hell or high water, I'd scrounge together what I needed to keep up my membership fee. The park was owned by a group of Hollywood elite, and it wasn't uncommon to see Bogart and Bacall or Wells and Hayworth saunter through. Or, now and then, a totally different redhead. Mrs. Cassie Semple didn't see me.
And the extra security with everything locked up so tight.
Okay, baby doll, I get it. You want to keep up with the headlines.
Not surprising that she'd be here, but the guy whose arm she was on was definitely not Mr. Semple. They headed for the bar. So did I.
That's the idea. You can hardly blame them with this recent epidemic of valuables finding their way out of locked doors.
You wouldn't know anything about that, now would you, Mrs. Semple?
Mr. Cadence, you reappear with the tedious inevitability of an unloved season.
Oh, who doesn't love spring?
I was thinking more like flu, detective.
Madam, you do wound me. But it's not like you to borrow a bon mot.
Well, let's just say I had been saving that one for a special occasion. Think of it as a compliment, dear.
If that's a compliment, I can't wait for the flowers and candy. Orchids and arsenic, no doubt.
Orchids are far too lovely and rare to just give away, darling.
Speaking of rare flowers, who do we have here in Mr. Semple's stead?
Not really any of your business, pal.
Mr. Harding is a consultant, advising me on a project.
I'll bet. Want to give us a minute, sport?
I'm not your sport. The lady and I are in the middle of a conversation.
Oh, well, the lady and I have a picture deal to discuss.
I don't care if you're...
Stephen, this will only take a moment, if you don't mind.
Fine.
Moving up to a higher class of crook, Mrs. Simple? Harding there doesn't dilly around with small-time sticky finger stuff. He's strictly an ice man. You got something to move?
You tell me, Mr. Cadence. Aren't you about to try to shake me down over some compromising photos or the fruit of an illegal wiretap?
Nah. Just thought it would get your attention. Got nothing new on you since Bel Air 2 months ago. You're getting better. And I've been neck-deep in work, investigating burglaries, so thanks for that.
I have no idea what you might be referring to, Detective.
But with Harding in the picture, looks like you're moving out of AAA. Who's my next client gonna be?
As it happens, Mr. Cadence, like you, I'm far too busy to be engaging in any playtime. I've got work to do, too.
I heard some rumblings about that, Mrs. Semple. Back to Secret Hearts, is it? I thought you were done with soaps. Couldn't stand it.
As a favor to my husband, I'm making a temporary appearance.
The triumphant return of Scarlet Powers, sizzling ingenue.
Something like that.
If you're picking up the torch, what do you need a diamond middleman like Harding for?
Research, darling. Strictly professional. Nothing for you to worry about.
Oh, Scarlet's getting into some risky business, is she?
You'll find out with the rest of America, Detective. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Pardon me if I'm not quite buying it, Mrs. Semple.
Your drink's empty, Mr. Cadence. I know you'll want to attend to that. Ta.
I lost the race. But like I said, it's not always about the winning. It's about the moment. And this time, the moment let me in on the ground floor of one of Mrs. Semple's capers before it happened, instead of just cleaning up after the fact like I'd been doing for the last year. So, what's the first thing you do with an alibi? Check it out, of course. Research, she said, for her stint on Secret Hearts. I give the production office a call. There's usually some low-totem assistant I could work for information, if I played my cards right. We'd see what hand I was dealt that day.
Secret Hearts office.
Hey, yeah, this is CJ Masters from the Hollywood Grapevine. I was hoping to get a few quotables about the return of Cassie Blue to the show.
No comment. That's what we're telling the press.
Oh, come on, sweetheart. I'm not looking for plot details, just a little bit of red meat. Could be a great big fat plug for the show, courtesy of the Vine.
I'm sorry, I can't. Wait. Mr. Cadence.
Whoa, wasn't expecting that. The voice did sound familiar. I scrambled like a gaggle of jakes to a 5-alarm fire trying to figure it out.
Huh? No, Masters. Sorry if I mumbled.
Mr. Cadence, it is you.
You
don't remember me? Maggie Drysdale.
Mags? No kidding? Wow. Maggie was an old assistant of mine, one of the best. Barely a kid at the time, but she could work a 35mm change fast as any old dog reel slinger. When I got my wings clipped, I hoped she'd land on her feet. I did what I could for her, but yikes. Daytime TV.
What are you doing, Mr. Cadence?
Never mind that. How the hell are you?
Not so bad. Assistant to the production manager.
They got you working the front desk for that?
Everyone's out of the office getting set for the big shindig tomorrow for Miz Blue and Scarlet.
Oh, right, the shindig. For Scarlet Powers and all. So you drew the short straw, huh?
Nah, just the only girl in the office.
Nuts to that. You got skills, Mags. They're lucky to have you.
That's very sweet of you, Mr. Cadence, but...
Nope. Just the truth.
Mr. Cadence, really? What's this all about?
Okay. No more ruses, Maggie. I'm looking for info.
For the grapevine, I can't help you.
No, my own gig.
It's still all hush-hush. If word gets out that I...
Hey, look, I'm not a reporter. I'm a confidential PI. Secrets are my trade. I take them to my grave or I don't get hired.
I'm no leak, Mr. C.
I know, Mags. That's what makes you the best assistant I ever had. Loyal to a fault.
Not going to work.
Mags.
Mr. Cadence, I watched you turn on that little boy charm and get your way with actresses and makeup girls for years.
Mags.
Mr. Cadence.
Okay, Mags. You know me. But you really do know me, don't you? I don't want to do anything to get you into trouble. I promise you. Whatever you tell me, it'll never get back to you. Didn't I do everything I could for you? Keep you out of the heat when I flamed out?
Yes.
So please, can you do me this?
Tell me what you want to know first.
Is Mrs. Simple really paying a consultant for research? A Mr. Harding?
That's all.
Promise.
Okay. No, I don't think so. She doesn't need to, though. She's got the whole writing pool for that.
How so?
That's what her condition was for coming back. She gets to run the show on her own storyline. If she needs any research, they can do it.
But what is she researching?
They don't tell me.
Ah, come on, Mags. You're the UPM's right hand. You're everywhere, and no one pays any attention to you, which means they talk in front of you. And if you're the Maggie Drysdale I remember, you listen to it all.
I only sat in on a few story meetings, but they were talking about ways to get around burglar alarms. Coming up with some really creative stuff. I guess they're going for a rip from the headlines kind of thing. Stolen jewels. Kind of like what's been going around Hollywood lately. You heard about that?
Yeah, I read the papers. They're working it into the plot. Who's getting robbed? Scarlet herself?
Hey, you said only one thing.
You got me, Mags. That's okay. That actually tacks.
Huh?
Never mind. Look, thanks so much for this. I promise. No one will ever know I talked to you.
Better not.
Cross my heart. I didn't expect that. Not an old assistant blowing my cover on the phone. I get made every now and then. Every Seamus does. No. That Mrs. Simple's alibi for consulting with a known conman and jewel fence would add up. It actually made sense. A heist plot would need some expert advice. And while the lady could do many things, even she couldn't get an entire TV show crew to cover for her. It must really have been what was happening on the show. But it was Cassie Blue. Nothing was how it looked. There was more. And the best way to get info was to go right to the source. Mrs. Simple had a talent for zigging when you expected her to zag, but some obligations you just can't get out of. A soiree in honor of her character was one of them, so all I needed was a way in. Normally I'd try to get in with the catering crew, but I'd take a bounce before I ever got to the guest of honor. I had a better way this time, right in through the front door.
I'm so glad you called. I had such a good time with you at Maxie's.
Me too, doll. But when I said I'd love to get together for a few laughs, I sure wasn't expecting this.
Perfect timing. I had another date, but he fell through.
Fell through? Let's just say I threw the guy a few curves, $20 an hour's worth. His loss. Patty Fletcher was a blue-eyed vision tonight. Quite the posh to do, Patty. A step up from slinging pasta at the Sunshine Sisters.
I can't believe I'm meeting you. I've always loved your movies.
Will you look at that?
I hope I can be in one of them someday.
Let's make it a point, sweetheart.
Gladly. What am I looking at?
Scarlet.
Scarlet? Powers? But Mrs. Simple is over there.
No, Scarlet Smith.
You lost me, babe.
That adorable thing right there.
I'm your biggest fan, Miss Lupino.
Lupino.
That lovely little slip? Looks like she just left the homecoming court at Middletown High.
About to be introduced to the show. Gonna pick up where Scarlet Powers left off.
The name's really Scarlet?
Mabel. Mabel Nesmith. Scarlet Smith is her stage name.
Ah, no doubt to the delight of Mrs. Simple.
She thinks it's cute. Mabel idolized her. Basically wants to be her.
Who's the silver hair she's hanging on?
Her agent.
Ah, Hollywood. Takes a personal interest for the sake of her art and all.
I don't think she's complaining. She was hardly here a day when he got her the part she wanted.
I'm sure those sapphires dripping off of her neck didn't make her want to catch the next Greyhound back to Peoria. As long as she doesn't go blind from that guy's Rolex. It's got to be 20 grand on his wrist.
Some girls have all the luck.
Speaking of lucky girls, I haven't paid my respects to the belle of the ball yet. Mrs. Simple.
Mr. Cadence. Twice in as many days.
I'm people who know people, doll.
So I see. Patty, dear, would you mind finding me some champagne? And Mr. Cadence, I've never seen you empty-handed so often. Bring some for all of us, darling. Off you go.
Okay. Be right back.
Thank you so much.
Oh, now come on, sweetheart. You quit the Sunshine Sisters, and she's not a waitress anymore.
It never crossed my mind.
Is that how June Devereaux treated a young Cassie Blue? Wait, I'm sorry. What was it in those days? Cascade Blue?
I had a few moments of being a silly little girl along the way, Detective.
I'd be careful.
No worries. June's mistake was underestimating me.
And you don't think you might be under... Oh. Ouch.
Mr. Cadence, you finagled that vacuous creature into bringing you here, so you might as well get on with telling me about how you're on my trail, and I won't get away with it. Not that there's anything to get away with.
What's going on, babe? You're never shy about letting loose with that razor tongue, but this is just kind of mean.
Cassie?
Well, hello, Scarlet, darling.
I'm so excited. A real Hollywood party.
The first of many, dear.
I know. I've dreamed about it since I was a little girl. It took me so long to get out here, but I've made it.
And all of your 17 years look radiant on you, I must say.
Yeah.
Neil, I see you made sure your client was well appointed. Such a lovely necklace.
Trinkets. The girl deserves the world.
I'm not just a client. Neil proposed to me tonight.
Indeed. Well, congratulations are in order.
Here's the bubbly.
Oh, we need more than this now. We need to make a toast. Could you fetch a few more glasses, sweetie? There's a dear.
Sure.
Everything does seem to be coming up scarlet these days, doesn't it? New part, new husband.
Yes, just like I've always pictured it. I'm so happy.
And well earned, dear.
Sorry, just a little trouble swallowing there.
Where are my manners? Scarlet, Neil? This is Mr. Cadence.
Cadence? The camera jockey?
Yeah, used to be.
Oh, right. You're a gumshoe now.
Detective.
Ooh, really? That's so exciting. You know what? My character has to hire a detective because her favorite jewels are stolen by...
Scarlet, sweetheart, remember, confidentiality.
That is a stunning necklace you're wearing tonight, Miss Smith. Cashmere sapphires, are they? Bet they'd fetch a pretty fence.
Those will be locked up tight. Don't you worry.
Ooh, is that John Raymond over there?
Looks like.
I have to meet him. Come on, honey bear.
Sure. No problem, Dolly.
Charming couple. Chatty girl.
Don't let your imagination run too far away from you, Detective.
Oh, I don't know if it's a run so much as a leisurely stroll through an orchard of low-hanging fruit.
What you heard is a plot from Secret Hearts, nothing more.
There's always more with you, Mrs. Simple.
Besides, Scarlet is a lovely girl. Why would I do anything so low to her? She has excellent taste in role models, even if not so much in husbands.
She's even wearing your color.
Yes, something Neil knows full well.
Ooh, a little intrigue? Sending a message, is he?
He's saying time's up, but he might need to check his watch again.
Is this enough champagne?
Oh, thank you, dear, but the moment's passed and the happy couple have moved on. Perhaps we'll catch up with them later tonight.
Juicy as those sapphires were, yeah, I had to admit, Mrs. Simple had a point. Too on the nose, no real reason to do it. The poor girl had barely even made it to town. Besides, why on earth would she tip her mitt by copying what she's doing on Secret Hearts? That'd be a big neon arrow pointing right at her. On top of it all, Harding was known as a diamond middleman. He moved ice, not sapphires. And there were diamonds to be had. She practically dangled them under my nose. So here I was, crouched outside Neil Franklin's house, waiting for the Hollywood housebreaker to lift his studded diamond-faced Rolex. Check his watch? One simply doesn't provoke Mrs. Cassie Simple. Who knew what was going on? For all I knew, Mrs. Simple had set up a diversion elsewhere to leave Neil's place unprotected. Yeah, that seemed pretty likely. So I could only assume she'd make the scene any moment now. Now, wait a minute. Where was Neil going? Oh, Christ. Of course. I followed Neil, keeping my distance, but yep, he went right to the gathering of cop cars outside a prim little pink villa. Really rather nice. No doubt also the fruits of Neil Franklin's benefaction. Sure enough, Neil ran up to a distraught Scarlet, who started crying into him.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's just... We'll get him. Don't worry.
And then I saw a familiar face. Damn it.
Cadence! Why, bless me.
Let me guess. Burglary. Jewels.
Yeah. Hey, you got any brilliant theories tonight, Pally? Maybe Eartha Kitt was in the neighborhood and decided to help herself? No, I know. Marilyn Monroe couldn't live without him.
You're a riot, Thompson. Thompson was an ape who never got tired of the same joke, but I knew exactly who it was. Of course I did. And she had pulled a fast one on me again.
Mighty Mo and Cassie Blue will return in a moment. And now, Troy Rudisill and Christy Grantham return as Mighty Mo and Cassie Blue.
The truly irritating thing about Mrs. Simple wasn't that she's never where you expect. It's that she ribs you up to places where she never is. I'll bet she could have hugged Scarlet for letting the burglary plot slip. To just foreclose the entire line of inquiry is too obvious. She did seem awfully chummy with the girl. So yeah, this really didn't make sense at all. Mrs. Simple was the type for poetic justice. If her beef was with Neil, then why go after Scarlet? Poor girl was just a pawn.
Morning scoop. Hollywood housebreaker strikes again. Steals sapphires from supple starlet.
Oy vey.
Read it here. Semple Studios press conference tomorrow.
Turned out that press conference was necessary. The burglary plot was going to hit the airwaves later today. They were going to try to play it up as art imitating life, but I didn't envy them that sale. No matter about that, though. It was tomorrow. But today was Tuesday. And that meant one thing. Cassie Blue was scheduled to get a little more red. Mrs. Simple's fiery tresses were in the care of Secret Hearts. She'd be in her dressing room, but I did have a certain ace up my sleeve.
But it was my engagement present. I didn't do anything to them.
Careful, dear. I don't want to get my collar on that lovely dress. Wardrobe would kill me.
It's just not fair.
No, darling. Those Philistines.
Top of the morning to you, ladies.
Speaking of...
Mrs. Semple, Miss Smith.
How did you find your way back here, Detective? Never mind. I'll tend to it. Yes, can you send someone? I have a slight pest problem.
No, silly. Mr. Cadence is helping me. You've got to find my necklace. If you don't, I'll literally die.
No one wants that. I'll find it, baby doll. I've got a lead or two.
Already?
Yes, ma'am.
Yay!
Matter of fact, I'm just about to run one down.
Oh, I knew Mr. Cadence was the best.
You'll get no argument from him.
Oh, shoot! I've got rehearsal, but thank you, Mr. Cadence, and thanks so much for being so nice, Cassie. You're so wonderful. I just knew you would be. Okay, power face.
force of nature, isn't she? She really only 17?
Hardly a tick over, Detective.
If she's that stacked at this age, I'd like to meet her mom.
Let's cut to the quick, Mr. Cadence.
Sure. The sapphires, sweetheart. Scarlet only wants them back. No questions asked.
How generous.
Look, you made your point, babe. You don't even dislike the girl, so why not just give the sapphires up? It'll make us both look good.
How's that, if no questions are asked?
Okay, it'll make me look good. But it's better than going down for it, isn't it?
I assume you have some evidence to make good on that attempt at leverage, Mr. Cadence?
Not yet, doll, but presently.
Good luck, Detective. I still have an hour until I rinse, so please, show yourself out.
The lady was right. I didn't have anything solid to shake her for, even though we both knew that we both knew. Next thing to do was to tail Harding. As expected, I found him heading to a jeweler. He headed in. I hung back, but slapped a microphone against the shop window and listened. I won't bore you with the lead-up, but the upshot was this.
$70K? They're worth 100 at least.
Look, Steve, these are hotter than hell and everyone knows it. $70K is the fire sale price.
They're genuine, ain't they?
Yes, they're perfect. They're just too hot to handle. Maybe when things cool off a bit.
All right, 70. I'll have the rest of the stones tomorrow.
I chanced to glance into the window. The jeweler handed back a single gem to Harding. Good for the lady. At least she knew enough only to give Harding a sample instead of the whole load. Harding dropped it into his pocket and stormed out. Going rate's a little lower than expected, huh?
What do you want, Mac?
Name's Cadence.
Yeah, I know you from the Bang Tales. I said, what do you want?
An offer.
Beat it.
No, seriously. I got no kick with you, Harding. I'm not gonna rat on you. I've just been hired by the doll to get her jewels back. She's given me quite a stack to do it. I got no problem splitting that with you, if you make it easy.
Yeah? How much?
$50K.
A piece?
No, total. $25K a pop.
Yeah, take a powder, pal.
Hey, I know Mrs. Simple isn't going 50 cents with you. 25 large has got to be more than you'd get if the going rate for the whole kit is 70.
I told you to breeze off, Cadence.
Think about it, Harding. It was worth a shot. I didn't really expect it to work. Mrs. Simple had been growing in her craft over the last year. Her skill at keeping discipline was getting tight. Harding was still rock solid. She wasn't going to let him slip her clutch unless I rankled her good. The shorter of a leash she kept on him, the harder it was going to be for me to claim Scarlet's $50K reward. And Doc, I don't mind telling you, that was one hell of a tasty-looking carrot. If I had any chance of getting Harding to flip, I had to put some real heat on Mrs. Simple, or at least torque her off enough to gum up her game. I knew exactly where to go to gin up that kind of trouble.
Next question, please. Yes, Stan.
Cassie, are you taken aback by the similarity of the crime to what's happening on the show?
It's Hollywood, Stan. Nothing surprises me anymore.
It's a little coincidental, isn't it?
What are you saying? That the Hollywood housebreaker works for Secret Hearts?
Well, no. I just wonder if...
I'm sure he doesn't get his ideas from daytime TV, Stan.
But...
Next question, please.
It was a calculated risk. If she thought her hand was busted, she could rip me out easy enough. Oh well. No guts, no glory. How do you know it's a he, Mrs. Semple?
I'm sorry, Mr.
C.J. Masters, Gentleman's Monthly. How do you know the HH is a he?
Well, maybe you know, less trustworthy women than I do, Mr. Masters, but...
Are you gonna work the housebreaker into the storyline?
We're not in the business of free publicity.
Ooh, wouldn't it be something if Scarlet Powers turned out to be the burglar? Who'd expect that?
Secret Hearts is a soap opera, not a men's magazine. We have some standards for believability.
Oh, come on, Miss Semple. Wouldn't you like to sink your teeth into a meaty role like that?
This all sounds familiar, Mr. Masters. Did we get a spec script from you?
From me? No, ma'am. I'm just a humble reporter.
I'd swear you took a swing at the business in some capacity. Could be a faulty old memory, though.
Familiar, huh? Am I getting close? Scarlet Powers have a dark secret or two?
But reporters do often fancy themselves storytellers, don't they? We have a writing staff already, Mr. Masters.
So you're not up to a little mischief?
Trust me, if Scarlet Powers were up to any mischief, there would be a lot of it.
Could be just the thing to prop up a sagging career.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Masters?
Scarlet's career, of course. We're talking about Scarlet here, right?
Oh, I think Miss Smith has many good years still ahead.
Oh, no, I meant Scarlet.
How is the girl handling all this, Cassie? Does your heart go out to her and the other victims of the housebreaker?
Well, let me tell you, Stan, Scarlet is a delight to have around. So, of course, I hate that this happened to her. I hate that we're all living like we're in fortresses, hiding our valuables. But does my heart go out? Nah, we can afford it.
I gotta hand it to her for the recovery. She swung at that softball from Stan like a pinch hitter. But I wasn't any closer to nabbing those sapphires and claiming my $50K. That reward was my ticket to getting back some of the life I had lost, or at least setting me up prettier than I was now. And opportunities like that drop once, maybe twice. You heard the tape. Harding was on deck to fence those blue beauties today, so my last chance was going to be with him. I'd make a Hail Mary appeal to the gentleman's more questionable angels. But I didn't have much to polish that apple with. I sniffed him out on the way to the jewelry shop. Page 10 of the Cadence playbook was in full force, which is to say, I made it up as I went along. Harding!
Buzz off!
My offer still stands. You should take the $25K. Only reason you wouldn't is if you're getting more.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. You gave her what, $35K up front? Told her that's all you could get, and you're gonna keep the $70 for yourself, aren't you? You're double-crossing the lady.
Who are you? A guardian angel or something?
You think she's that dumb?
I ain't talking about this anymore.
Harding!
Get off! I'll kill you!
I want the jewels. Stupid desperation move, but it paid off. Sapphire's brilliant blue spilled out onto the pavement. We both clawed for them.
Cadence! Cadence! Stay down, bucko.
My 80-pound grandmother hit harder than that.
You ain't getting the hint.
Graham always worried I was a little slow.
Give me that gem.
No chance in it. It turned to powder.
That blasted skirt. They're all fake.
She played you like a...
I'll kill her.
I don't think so. I clubbed him with a tape recorder. He wouldn't be down long. It'd give me a head start to get to Mrs. Simple first. Chances were she had the sapphires on her. No wonder she couldn't be flapped. She never had any intention of letting those pretties out of her sight, and had me chasing fakes the whole time. I caught up with her making the sneak. Pretty brave of her to be on her own pins in this part of town with that kind of heavy sugar. She wasn't ruffled at all that I found her, but this time I had an advantage I fully intended to press. Mrs. Simple.
Oh, Mr. Cadence.
You got the sapphires on you, don't you? And Harding's $35K, I bet.
You might want to ask Mr. Harding.
I just did. Left him with a hell of a goose egg. He's gonna be headed this way by now, though. Paste jewelry isn't gonna get him his payday.
He shouldn't have found that out yet.
I helped him along.
Mr. Cadence.
It was a great play, sweetheart, but I knew something was up. The jewel fence double cross? Classic. Guy I knew told me about it once.
Be sure to thank him.
Died last year.
In some fetid sewer, no doubt, if he was an acquaintance of yours.
Vienna. But the clock's ticking, Mrs. Simple. Harding's on his way. You don't want to have those jewels on you when he gets here.
Not that I really need to ask, Mr. Cadence, but what do you suggest?
Give them to me. Keep the cabbage for all I care, but give me the sapphires.
You're nothing if not persistent, Detective.
Sweetheart, you don't have much of a choice. The headache I left Harding with isn't going to put him in much of a mind for, arm's-length negotiations.
Fine, Mr. Cadence.
Thank you, Mrs. Semple.
Go collect your reward.
Oh, I plan to. 50,000 bucks worth. Offered to split it with Harding, but he didn't take. That's how I really knew.
No honor among thieves.
Heartbreaking, isn't it? Now, doll, what was all this really about?
I told you, Mr. Cadence. Research.
This wasn't part of Secret Hearts. What research?
I didn't know how to fence jewels. Mr. Harding did. Now I do.
And Scarlet's sapphires?
I couldn't very well learn if I didn't have anything to fence, could I?
So that's it? You stole them from the girl just so you could fence them?
Clearly, you don't know me as well as you think, Detective.
But why Scarlet? I thought you two were thick.
She's everything I hate about this business. She's why I didn't want to come back to Secret Hearts.
She's a sweetheart, which is pretty rare in these parts.
Sweet and stupid. She honestly seems to think they just hand out dream rolls when you step off the bus. She's where she is only because a man put her there. And worse, all too willing, all too happy to marry into success instead of earning it.
You didn't exactly wed your hometown beau, Mrs. Semple.
Watch yourself, Mr. Cadence. I made it on my own. Manny Semple is the most impressive man I ever met, and that's why I married him. But I don't want a thing his money can bring me. I can get it myself. I do get it myself.
Yes, you do, ma'am.
Go enjoy your reward, Detective. With my compliments.
I intercepted Harding along the way. He wasn't too happy to see me. I reintroduced him to the tape recorder. But instead of a haymaker across the face with it, I played him the tape of him making the deal with the fence. He'd get pinched for the theft. Maybe all of the Hollywood heists if he didn't blow town. As far as I know, he lammed off. I never heard from him again. Scarlet was thrilled to get the sapphires back. And 50 G's sliding across my desk was just about the sweetest sound I'd heard in a while. Well, 46 G's. The jewels were authentic, except for one ringer which smashed between my fingers right in front of Scarlet. I told her I had no idea what happened to the last jewel, and it wasn't an entire lie. I didn't know for sure. I did notice that one of Mrs. Semple's blue stage ear studs had suddenly gotten a little bit more brilliant than the other. And when she put on her face, took her call and smiled through another day in Hollywood, it was a rare, rare occasion that she didn't wear that set. Cassie Blue never kept trophies of her wins, you see, only her losses. She lost that day, and she wasn't going to let herself forget it.
Did that work at all?
It did. The only problem was that you sound like you're like.
It felt like it was.
Yeah. Why don't we just all stand close like this? And
I think we can all get in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll stand in here too.
Look at all. It's so cozy in here.
Somebody needs to get a picture of this. This is too good.
Nice.